You've heard of Epstein's Island. We all have. The legends, the curses, foolishness about it, lying in the middle of the ocean. A bright, shining monument luring predators into the files. The world's most famous stars and entertainers riddling the files. All following the example set by one man. He offered a chance for pedophiles all over to begin again on the island. However, it all allegedly ended in 2019 when its old master allegedly died, but it's still out there in the ocean preserved, just waiting for its old master to return. But getting to it, that's not the hard part. It's escaping. Epstein is one of the most polarizing characters in modern history for, questionable reasons, and Fallout 4 is one of the most polarizing games in modern-ish Fallout history for reasons. And Epstein allegedly died in 2019, but how can he be dead if he's right here? So I decided to ask a question that nobody else on the planet has hopefully asked. Can you beat Fallout 4 as Jeffrey Epstein? Now, among the insurmountable amount of questions you probably have, the biggest is most likely, how do you become Epstein in Fallout 4? And I wish you could hear how stupid you sound right now. It's simple. First of all, I'm gonna make a very evil character. Then, I'm gonna build a temple of sorts on an island of sorts. Then, I become stinking rich. And I'm gonna do all of this on survival mode because, last I checked, the Steen wasn't able to fast travel. And lastly, I'm only allowed to use a Glock or my fists, since those were the only weapons he ever legally used in the real's life. And someone like Epstein never broke the law. So yeah, no very easy mode carrying me this time. This is going to be a really unenjoyable time, which is probably what Epstein said before he went to prison. Wait, I'm already getting into character. Thank God I live far away from any schools. I'm also going to try and roleplay a little bit for this one. Like, this video is going to be like half challenge round and half an alternate reality where Epstein survives and basically just replaces Nate in-game. Anyways, there's more aspects to being Epstein, but you'll see later, so as Epstein probably said, let's get cracking. I woke up standing next to my beautiful wife Ghislaine and started making my character as Epstein-like as possible. I was greeted by the Vault Tech rep and I assigned my special stats. Nothing too crazy. 1 strength because Epstein was honestly kinda lacking in the bod department. 4 perception for locksmith so I can break into kids' bedrooms. 3 endurance, mainly just for life giver. 3 charisma for lone wanderer, which is essential for this playthrough as Epstein walked that lonely road. The only road that he will ever know. 3 intelligence for gun nut, and mainly because he wasn't the smartest guy. What intelligent person would like kids? 4 agility so I can get Mr. Sandman, only because, the perk icon alone is fitting for this run. And the rest into luck, both for crits and to represent how lucky this guy got with his sentencing. I'm thinking I want to try a stealth Epstein build, both because I'm playing on survival, and he was just a sneaky guy in real life, so I need to pay tribute. I made sure to be as close to Sean as a father is comfortably allowed to be to his son. Unfortunately, my father-son time got interrupted with the world ending and whatnot, but since I'm the Steen, my boy Elon Musk hooked me up with a spot in a vault, so Epstein lives on. I got turned into a popsicle and decided now is a good time to start mentally preparing for the mind-fucking that this challenge was about to do to me. I woke up only to find Ghislaine dead and little Epstein Jr. missing, so I had to go find them. Nobody takes kids away from me. I wasn't allowed to use the baton because it isn't my fists or the cool looking Glock pistol mod that I installed. It still didn't matter in the end. My fellow cockroaches never stood a chance. I left the vault and tasted fresh air for the first time in what feels like 30 seconds and spoke to Codsworth. We took a nice leisurely stroll through Sanctuary and kindly massacred the bloatfly population, preparing Sanctuary for my arrival. And boy did I arrive. I also leveled up in the process and picked what might just be the most important perk of this playthrough, Idiot Savant. What happens now is the complete and total annihilation of all of the natural resources in Sanctuary. In their place, I created enough shelves, both metal and wood, to make an IKEA weep. However, it didn't feel right. Everyone has done this. Everyone has used shelves. I need to differentiate myself from every other Fallout challenge run. So I made the tough decision that instead of shamelessly power leveling using shelves or fence posts, I would shamelessly power level with fish buckets. And boy did I get results. I even leveled up. And now, with Sanctuary smelling like Bonnie Blue's cooch, I figured it was high time to fuck off and go rescue Preston. Before all that happened though, I got into a scuffle with some mantises and hid in a playground for old time's sake. And in the process, I kinda just forgot about Preston entirely. But he didn't really matter at this point in time, as my main mission was to get my hands on my weapon of choice, the Glock X19 or something. And I figured Trudy would have some. However, I was sorely mistaken, and now she has to pay for my incompetence. So I stole some shit off her desk and let the carnage begin. At this point, I was pretty much fucked. I was at a sliver of HP, crawling around in a dress unarmed. And then things got worse, when I pulled a Santa Claus and broke into a Yaguai's crib. I somehow survived, and by sheer fucking miracle, I found a bed with an eyebot guarding it, so I actually saved my game. My new goal was Diamond City, because all of these fucking vendors are worthless and have nothing on my Latina Arturo. I got a little lost and ended up between the legs of a Boston local, so back to square one. I took a different path this time and found a bed in Mystic Pines, which made me a tad bit more aroused than I was before. I got even more lost than I was before when I ended up in the sewers with a group of people who were even more shady than even Epstein. But this time, I didn't die, so I got to use Covenant as yet another checkpoint to Diamond City. I got really mad at Swanson for copying my style. There can only be one. I should have put a bullet in his head then and there. And then, it happened. This challenge became something resembling a nightmare. For the next maybe 3 hours of my life, I would get killed maybe 30 times, whether it be at the hands of ghouls, raiders, or even Swanson of all people. It was not pleasant. At this point, I was starting to feel bad for Epstein. But at the end of the day, it didn't matter. The Steen always wins. I arrived at Diamond City all the same. Wait, this isn't Diamond City? Fuck! And what's worse is that these freaks don't even have beds here. What? I eventually, out of fucking destiny or whatever, found a bed close enough to Boston where I wouldn't lose my mind after dying. So I made it to Diamond City for real this time and bought my gun. You really think things would go that well around here? I couldn't afford it, because despite it being basically a reskinned 10mm pistol, it's 2,000 caps. So I kid you not, I had to sell literally everything to my name, including all of my dresses, just to afford the damn gun. But on the bright side, I did manage to get 140 shots for it, so I felt fucking... I eventually had to go test it out on some innocent people just to see what Epstein was packing. The answer was not enough, and I was off to go push the Epstein agenda, starting with stealing the local tomatoes. I started the Confidence Man quest and progressed it just enough until the Russian guy gets kidnapped, and then stopped. Anyways, I know I just got to Diamond City, but anything here could sneeze on me and I'd die, so I'm gonna backtrack a bit. But hey, this time traveling half the map went much better, believe it or not. I thought I'd settle the score with Wolfgang for not selling the right shit, so now he dies. Alright, I just need to aim better, that was just a skill issue. Okay, I'll let him live. I figured now, at level 9 by the way, was a good time to save Preston and friends. Okay, now you might be thinking, hey NoodleGod, this is supposed to be an evil playthrough. Rescuing Preston isn't all that evil. What gives? Well, first of all, Preston is pretty much the Antichrist of this fandom. He's pure evil incarnate. And second, Epstein was an opportunist. Like most rich people, he took any chance, no matter the situation, and tried to gain from it for his personal benefit over anyone else's. And by rescuing Preston, I would get XP, and the chance to kill Mama Murphy, so I'd say it evens out. I gave it my all on the first attempt and it wasn't even close. It's just that the fucking iron sights on this gun are so goddamn shite. Like, I don't know if that's intentional, but it's clear they didn't make this mod with me having a good time in mind. So realizing that I was fucked, I scurried my little cockroach ass all the way back to the Red Rocket truck stop in the quickest way I could, and began modding my already modded gun. I painted it black and figured that would be more than enough in the end. You already know, it wasn't enough. So I leveled up one more time and put the point into Gunslinger. This was a game changer. I was exuding nothing but Vaughn energy. It was crazy. I made it into the museum and against my initial thoughts, it was more of the same. I was actually holding my own in the first real combat encounter of the game, at level 10! Anyways, I spoke to Preston and his posse who basically told me to save them, which is rich coming from them because, in actuality, I was the real damsel who needed saving, so I don't really understand their bitching. After realizing that the combined usefulness of this entire group matched that of a mole rat, I decided to take things into my own hands. I really wanted to wear the power armor, however, I don't think it should be allowed for this challenge because Epstein didn't really have power armor training in real life. So for as much pent-up sexual frustration not wearing the power armor would give me, I decided I would need to thug it out, for reasons beyond even me. The Raiders decided to put some guy with a baseball bat on the roof, which thankfully wasn't that big of a problem. I wish the rest of this quest was that easy. In one of my very few actual strategic moments of this playthrough, I used the Deathclaw to my advantage, as I lured it around the museum, basically just decimating any raider it found. My strategic genius was put into question the second the Deathclaw died, and made me look like a stranded toddler once again. I realized I was in way over my head, so I made a tactical retreat, much as a certain criminal did to avoid jurisdiction, and made a foolproof plan to run away and take random potshots at them. The plan didn't work for two reasons. One, I'm shooting them with a glorified fucking Nerf gun, and two, said Nerf gun only has 17 bullets. So I decided now was a great time for a change in scenery. So I went to Drumlin Diner and bartered with its new masters, who had no 10mm ammo. I should have killed them for that. And then watched in horror as Trash Can fucking Carla had the gun I went all the way to Diamond City and wasted 3 hours on. Safe to say, somebody was gonna pay for this. I figured the innocent baby Yagoi would have to do, but alas, he was gone. And in his place, a group of homeless people who must have driven the baby out of his natural habitat. They need to pay for this. The mistreatment of a child is enough to make Epstein weep. After the massacre, I paid Wolfgang a visit, and finally put an end to him and his bitch for their crimes against Epstein. I'm sure this won't have any repercussions. Okay, so I forgot to record from killing Wolfgang until now, and I don't know where I am or how I got here, so I guess consider everything from then until now lost media. Anyways, long story short, I am now in a meth shack somewhere in the northwestern part of the Commonwealth, scared and covered in piss. So I'm really going hard into the Epstein roleplay, or at least the part of Epstein's life prior to when he became Palm Beach Pete. I found a doctor who just so happened to be in a heavily irradiated area, which probably explains why she was a ghoul, and I figured I was getting heavily irradiated while I was talking to her, but I just figured she would cure my radiation before I died. On the bright side, geckos this far east is a sign that spring is coming. Karma's a bitch. I shoulda known better. This is what The Boys Season 5 warned us about. This giant fucking side quest waste of time was all made worth it in the end, when I made a discovery. Oh, shit, I can't use commands in survival mode. So if you want your photo op, now's the time. Fun fact time, rumor has it that Epstein, he was a bit of a philanthropist. So when I found a thirsty settler, I decided to help him out. It was second nature to me. After my one statutory good deed of the day, I got a bit of a devious plan. I planned to lure the horde of ghouls from Gorski Cabin to the Museum of Freedom, so I wouldn't have to get my hands dirty. Typical Epstein guerrilla tactics. But when that didn't work, and I was forced into hiding on top of a truck, I felt a little thankful to Bethesda for once, because they made it so that ghouls can't jump. Probably exactly for this specific reason. So, bravo Todd. Bravo. After realizing I was near Dremlin Diner, I figured I'd be able to lure the ghoul over to Wolfgang, so it would kill his girlfriend, so I could have him all to myself. The plan didn't go through due to 2 reasons. 1, I already killed Wolfgang and forgot about it earlier. And 2, the ghoul lost interest, so I wouldn't have even gotten him to myself anyways. But hey, on the bright side, I ran into Trash Can Carla at the diner, and she sold me what was left of her 10mm ammo, bringing me out of fish on land levels of helplessness, and came back to something horrifying. One of the raiders put on a suit of power armor that some asshole used to jump off a building. I don't know how that happened, but it didn't change anything. They died, I lived, and Preston and friends got to live another day. So I took the first chance I could and used them for my own gain. I am now Jeffrey Epstein, billionaire, philanthropist, predator, general, in that exact order, but I am a general in name alone, as this is the last time I speak with Preston Garvey this playthrough. I have bigger fish to fry, like joining the Brotherhood, who are having a tough time with the new ghouls added by my mod pack, so it was my duty to help, and help I did not. The ghouls are scary. They like two-tap me, and don't say hide in the garden, because some of them have guns, which means I'm gonna be taking a prolonged bathroom break until dance finishes up. Toodles. 5 minutes of reels later, and Dance finally finished up with the ghouls. Gosh! And he left all this loot for me to grab? Sheesh! Of course I have to do everything around here. And just as I finished stuffing my pockets and approached Dance, it happened. The second ghoul has hit the police station. Genuinely biblical levels of greed. If I had just waited to grab everything, and spoke to Paladin Dance first, none of this would have happened. Except this time, something changed in me. It might have been because they were tearing up Dance's asshole right now, but I felt determination. I had to save the day, because I am the pinnacle of preds everywhere. I am... Fuck, I have my own island for Pete's sake. If these ghouls think they can stop me, then they've got another thing coming. Oh yeah, fuck now. So back to scrolling reels I went. And next thing you know, Dance finally killed the ghouls. So after robbing him and all of his friends, we left for ArcJet Systems. Okay, I got a little lost along the way and decided this is an adventure for a different day. So Dance will have to wait. I went back to Diamond City in the meantime and resupplied because the next move I would make would be rescuing Nick Valentine, because I am hella overleveled for where I am in the story and I'm gonna look like a premium pussyo if I don't get a move on. I landed at Park Street Station just in the nick of time and started blasting. These guys really weren't that big of a problem, and there was a bed in the station, so we were chillin'. Upon entering the vault, things kicked up to 11 though. Betrayal, revenge, romance. Yeah, none of those really happened, but I did die a lot. I abused crits to kill Skinny, Malone, and friends, and then we escaped. On the way back to Diamond City, I made a stupid decision to pick a fight with a missile launcher wielding super mutant, so I guess Skinny and I are running it back. We made it back to Diamond City after a few more deaths, and I described the sexy man who murdered Ghislaine. Oh yeah. I also upgraded my gun, and ended up somewhere I really shouldn't be. To get around spending my precious hard-earned caps, I tried offering Geneva a trip to the island, but she was not having it. After entering and breaking Kellogg's house, we were off. We as in Dogmeat and I, because fuck Nick. And after an hour and a half of aimlessly following Dogmeat, we arrived at Fort Hagen, which, honestly, was really easy. Like, I had more trouble outside with the raiders who weren't even supposed to be there, bear in mind, than I did with the synths inside the building that I was supposed to fight for the quest. But fuck it, I digress. I don't know what it is. Maybe survival mode makes energy weapons weaker, but these synths were fucking tickling me. I still played like a little bitch though, but hey, it paid off. I made it to Kellogg without dying a single time, and Kellogg was more the same. This gun really excels at close range, being able to be spammed with terrible accuracy, so if your barrel is shoved far enough down their urethra, you almost never miss, which you best believe happened to Kellogg. It appears even in death, Kellogg was always a power bottom, and I felt like a beast. So much of a beast that I didn't even save after Kellogg. I just gunned it back to Diamond City. For no particular reason. I had the sudden urge to run it back with Kellogg. This time around, I struggled a lot more. But he still died in the end, and I still went rooting around in all 3 of his different cavities. And I actually saved this time. The Brotherhood arrived, which meant I was one step closer to being able to fast travel. Which means by proxy, Dance won't have to be waiting much longer. Because I swear to God, if I have to walk from Sanctuary to Diamond City on survival with no weapon one more time, I'm gonna delete my channel, get naked, douse myself in gasoline, and then light myself on fire. ArcJet wasn't all that bad. I let Dance do most of the heavy lifting because I hadn't really saved since Fort Hagen, so I was a little paranoid to say the least, but hey, look at him. He could do the heavy lifting, especially with that frame. Ooh, hubba hubba. It all worked out in the end when I saved Dance's life, and then he gave me useless trash that I will never use, and then we had a playdate. On the way to his crib, I used the Vertibird minigun because why not? These peaceful communities are losing out by not getting shot at by me, so I had to share the wealth. They clearly weren't peaceful communities because they shot me down a few times on the way. Either that or they just didn't like getting shot, which I refuse to believe. On the bright side though, I got a cool ass cinematic shot for you guys. And then I arrived at the Pridwin to meet the Big Cheese. I felt really out of place there and vowed to genocide the Brotherhood the second they stopped being useful to me. I must have really wanted to fast travel because I immediately tried clearing out Fort Strong multiple times, only to get blown up multiple times. Here's where things get interesting though. And I figured I'd just get this explanation out of the way now because it's gonna suck regardless. So, as you might already know, I am playing with the Deadly Commonwealth, which is basically just a really unbalanced mod that adds loads of variance for most enemies. It's a lot of fun, you should try it, but like I said, not balanced whatsoever, which is why I've kind of been getting railed so hard. But here's where it gets even more interesting. To my knowledge, it only affects ghouls, raiders, and super mutants, all of which have been tearing my asshole to shreds, which makes this challenge even harder than it was before. Seriously though, don't get this mod on survival. I don't think it was intended to be played like that. Anyways, back to Fort Strong. Okay, so the game-breaking mod adds a few super mutant variants, like the super mutant Ordnance who carries a minigun, who tears the Vertibird to shreds in about a minute. Now, I'm not sure how Vertibirds work in Fallout 4, so leave a comment calling me stupid if you want. But I'd say there's a very solid chance that this quest is impossible to do on a Vertibird, so I might either need to clear the island out beforehand, or just not fast travel in the first place. Anyways, after getting PTSD flashbacks to the lasso tip of the spear mission on Halo Reach, I realized this was a problem I'd deal with later, so I guess fast travel can wait. I made myself feel better by tearing apart Boston Airport to level up, and I put the point into better criticals, which did help in the long term. I figured I'd try and just speedrun the game from here as to free myself from the hell that is being Epstein in Fallout 4, which means next stop is going to Good Neighbor, which was an awful experience. Oh my god. I kept getting killed in hilarious fashion. Even the Brotherhood were useless at this point. I ended up resorting to swimming to Good Neighbor, which somehow went even worse because I ended up on Spectacle Island of all places, as if it was my destiny. And while minding my own business, taking an innocent stroll down the road, I heard a peculiar voice, and upon investigating, it turns out there was someone trapped in the fridge. What's this?
Hold up, wait, I just hit the jackpot!
You could see it in his fucking eyes. this kid isn't making it home. Billy and I were inseparable. Mainly because he was too afraid to leave my company, and I took advantage of that whenever I could. Whenever there were ravenous close-range enemies, he was out there on the front lines just swinging, which, in retrospect, was a really bad idea because I forgot to uninstall the Murder Children mod, which means he was no longer... Oh well, with the power of friendship, he'll survive. You hear that, judges? Friend! Don't arrest me again. I'm just Palm Beach Pete. We stopped at the Atom Cat's garage to regroup, and then went back to Spectacle Island to settle the score, since I have big plans for this island down the line. And it turns out, those plans will have to wait. And on the way back to Good Neighbor, with my new friend, I may have backtracked a little too far south, and ended up face to face with a behemoth. Okay. Well, not face to face, it was just mostly me shitting myself firing pot shots into his ass while he just took it. But I'm pretty sure Billy was face to face with him if you count that. With the beast finally down, I decided to collect my spoils. But somehow, I could not, for the life of me, find the big dumb idiot's body. It was like it was never even there. Oh well. With this monumentous victory, I decided to actually start going to Good Neighbor, because, believe it or not, you don't go to fucking Spectacle Island by accident when you're going to Good Neighbor. And I don't know if I was being paranoid, but I had a pretty bad feeling about things. Just a hunch. And after a miraculous 0 deaths and not moving my finger from the control key later, I made it to Good Neighbor. And then I started a genuine contender for the most boring quest in the franchise. Like, I get it. It's kinda cool the first time, but it's not fun like the 20th or 30th time. It just eats up your day. That's a good 5 minutes that I'm never getting back. Like, please, Todd, on the next Fallout 4 remaster that you re-release for $90 that adds nothing, can you please at least make that sequence optional? Like, I would much prefer that to destroying all of the mods again. Anyways, Amari pointed me towards Virgin's Cave in the Glowing Sea. Yeah, we aren't ready for that yet. I figured a few level ups and a lot of restocking were mandatory to even start making the trek to the Glowing Sea, because if the first 4 hours of this playthrough are anything to go off of, I'm gonna need to be like level 25 wearing fucking power armor. Somewhere along the way to Good Neighbor, I lost Billy. I'm pretty sure he got mauled to death by a group of dogs because I kept putting off deleting the Murder Children mod, and now he's dead. This is gonna be a really awkward conversation with his parents. I returned to Covenant to finish the human error quest, and I kind of reached a bit of a roadblock. Call it a skill issue, I call it a game issue, so I had to take extreme measures. Some would call it the nuclear option. I didn't spare any of them. Not even the women and the children were safe. I mean, there weren't any children, which is almost certainly for the best, but you get the point. I really didn't want it to end this way, guys, you know. I thought we'd get along pretty well, all things considered, but I guess not. While I was mourning my new friends, I found something interesting. A compound with guys wearing Covenant security armor. And they're also pussies, so I know they're members of Covenant. Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right. Welp. Covenant is alive again. And now I know where to go from here without wasting my ammo or falling for the pocket grenade trick. So I headed back into the shit-infested tunnels, slimed out said worms infesting the shit, and pre-came when Idiot Savant triggered from one of the guards dying, giving me 600 bloody experience, leveling me up. But before I could spend my perk point or escape, I remembered. Anyways, unlike the 8th attempt, I entered a genuine flow state. Like, not even real Epstein could pull this off. I was separating assholes from bodies, abusing vats, winning. It was just a bloodbath. I made it to the end of the dungeon and met the doctor, who had an interesting proposal, so I had to hear her out. She's the kind of person I hate most. When Chambers died, she left behind a hostage who was in good hands. I was supposed to rescue her, but the quest marker updated, so I'm sure she'll be fine. Anyways, now for the real question. Is Covenant hostile towards me? This is secretly a blessing in disguise if you really think about it, since they deserve to die really, so I should be thanking them. And now, I claim the spoils. I figured I'm close enough to the next level where I can just power level with the broken settlement system, so I began finger blasting. And after gaining a few levels from the Covenant arc, I knew what came next. On the way to the glowing sea, I took refuge with some guy with a bunch of pet cats who also coincidentally sold cat meat, which gave me the heebie-jeebies, so I left south. And what I saw there was not much better. It was a super mutant behemoth who must have had aimbot built in, because fucking look at this! And what's worse is that, unlike the last big green idiot, I did not have the ammo to spare for this guy, so killing him wasn't even an option. Not that I could. Like, if I had a nickel for every time this guy domed me in the back of the head killing me, I would be as rich as real Epstein. And just when I thought I escaped, I saw 2 Deathclaws scrapping, and one of them got sent to the fucking stratosphere, so I knew I was dealing with the Brock Lesnar of Deathclaws. And just as I was about to die, and the security footage began to glitch, and the guards fell asleep, the Brotherhood, like the knights in shining armor they are, came to my rescue and started gunning the mighty beast down. And with the power of friendship, the Deathclaw was slain. And to be honest, I was feeling a little rambunctious after this brush with death, and thought it would be really funny if the Brotherhood and Behemoth killed each other. The Behemoth must have not thought it was funny, because this guy hit the mother of all trick shots and killed me. So back to square like fucking 11. This time, I opted to take the exact same path because I learned nothing from my mistakes. And despite very much deserving it, I was not punished for my stupidity. I may have spoke too soon. Upon entering the glowing sea, I ran into some guy selling dogs, and as tempted as I was, and as wholesome as it would be, it was also very likely that the dog would probably meet the same fate as Billy, so I reluctantly passed. And an unnamed amount of deaths later, as I was passing Fort Hagen on the way to Virgin's Cave, I was attacked by 2 more Deathclaws. Is that... You gotta be fucking kidding me! And wanna know the funniest thing? I survived that exchange. Oh wait, no, that's not the funniest thing. The funniest thing is that we're not even in the glowing sea yet. Apparently the super mutant suicider bombed the Deathclaws because there was only one left and it was near death. If I was any stupider, I would have actually tried to kill it, but I need to save my fingers for what came next. And believe it or not, nothing really happened in the glowing sea. It might have been because I had my finger glued to the sneak button and I had enough Rad-X to safely lick the demon core, but it wasn't actually that bad. I spoke with Virgin, who was a different pigment for some reason. It doesn't bother me though, who told me I had to kill a courser. And kill a courser I didn't. At least, not yet. First, I resupplied at Diamond City. Then, I wiped out the missionaries at the Charles View Amphitheater. God, this Silent Hill-ass fog is genuinely scaring the shit out of me. I arrived at Green Tech Genetics, and then I wiped out all of the vermin guarding the courser. And then, I killed the courser. Actually, the courser was the least of my problems. I was terrified of dying to the gunners in there, because, despite popular belief, they packed a punch, and my last save was at Bunker Hill, so I was fucking terrified. But it's all over now. I took a visit to Bunker Hill again, and went back to Good Neighbor to get the courser chip analyzed. And now I have to find the railroad. Great. While I was in Good Neighbor, I chatted up Magnolia, but she wasn't really my type. Upon making contact with the railroad and solving their riddle, I made sure to put on my cutest dress to impress them, and have them lower their guards. It was going well too until a child got involved, causing Glory to brutally murder me, which, if you look at the title of the video, isn't the most unreasonable decision at the end of the day, so I'm not completely mad. But I'm still gonna burn the railroad to the ground one day. The next time I didn't wear my dress, and things went significantly better. I mean, I wasn't shot dead, and they agreed to help me decode the courser chip, so not all bad. After sparing them, for now, I dipped in pursuit of greener pastures. See what I did there? So yeah, we're doing Show No Mercy again, because I am not subjecting my mental health to going through the glowing sea again. And yeah, I'm not sure if it's possible, but it's still better than trying the glowing sea. I was close the first time, but 2-3 more times, I died a bit harder, even with drugs. I know you can survive the vertibird exploding, but that's not really an option this early into survival mode, so seeing as the vertibird just isn't working, I don't really have a choice. I'm doing this on foot. I rescued the settlers of Nordhagen Beach from yet another Deathclaw, and instead of worshipping me like a god, they ignored me, so I blessed them with a bullet to the back of the head. I'm gonna try and use Nordhagen Beach as a checkpoint to Fort Strong so I have a bed close enough where I can just take pot shots at them and whittle them down. Maybe kill one of them, and then pussy out back to the bed and save, hopefully not soaking up too much damage. The plan was going well, except each time I slept, the mutants crept closer, until they were basically just knocking on my door, so much like a homeless fent addict, I retreated to under a bridge, which in hindsight, was maybe my smartest move ever. Like, I don't know if super mutants can swim, because these guys easily could have killed me if they went in the water, but they never did. This way, I was able to take pot shots at them while they couldn't hit me. Well, they could hit me, but, you know. And eventually, the coast was clear. This was the first time in approximately 6 minutes where I actually felt hope. That hope was immediately crushed when I realized that I wasn't even close to clearing out Fort Strong. I still had to kill a behemoth on foot. So things weren't looking great in hindsight, not to mention that the part that took me 30 minutes probably would have taken a normal player like 5 minutes tops. Anyways, with the minigun guy dead, I figured nothing was really stopping me from just going in guns blazing on the vertibird. And it really would have been nice, but the pilot was not feeling it, so I guess no air support for this guy. Ammo was also becoming a major problem, as I had a walking bullet sponge to kill with less than a full magazine, so I restocked. Not just at the Pridwin though, because that was not going to cut it. I also went to Good Neighbor in Diamond City to stock up on ammo. Thank God I learned how to play with one hand. While I was in Diamond City, I also upgraded my gun again, adding a new receiver, bringing my damage per shot to 72. And I added a flashlight, which was really cool, not gonna lie, but it was pretty much fucking pointless. I returned to the fort and started throwing attempts at the wall. It took me a few tries to take the big beast down, mainly because there was just one Nightkin who would periodically one-shot me while I couldn't spam bats on him because he was invisible. But apart from that, it wasn't very hard. And all I had left was the interior, which compared to what I just went through, was honestly piss easy. This gun probably has around 300 DPS at close range. Granted, you hit every shot. So these indoor fights with big, slow-moving targets are not a problem for me. And despite the 2 big green short bus riders with missile launchers, I was still as alive as real Epstein. I would have claimed Fort Strong as my own if it was an island, and if there were even celebrities that weren't dead to invite to that island, but oh well. Oh yeah, and all the corpses I guess, but not gonna lie, just based on what we know about the files, corpses might actually make it closer to the source material. Anyways, I finished the objective, I spoke with Maxon, and finally got access to fast travel, which felt fucking fantastic. So to the Goon Cave I went, and I kid you not, there was another Deathclaw waiting for me, who was there last time I went to the Glowing Sea, but I forgot to record that part. Virgin gave me the schematics to build a teleporter into the Institute, and Maxon was fucking thrilled. He filled me with his warm, creamy praise. Any mention of synths, or coincidentally Paladin Dance, had him salivating, so he lent me everyone's favorite cripple just to bark orders at me. Long story short, I built the teleporter and I was in the Institute. Yo, wait. These Institute guys sound pretty cool. Kidnapping people? I feel like if there was any Fallout faction in Fallout, period, that Epstein would join, it would have been the Institute. They're like one of the only just blatantly evil ones. Although the Brotherhood would have been a close second since they're basically just the US government at the end of the day. I spoke to Sean, who would so be on the files, and then decided to meet the gang. You know, unrelated, but while I'm here, genuinely who would side with the Railroad in a survival playthrough? Like, the Brotherhood has fast travel and objectively the best companion, the Institute has water fountains and nearly infinite human shields, the Minutemen have the fastest quest line, but genuinely what does the Railroad have? What do they have going for them? Like, I know you can fast travel with them, but that's incredibly late game. And I know they stand up against slavery, but like, is being a good person really worth all that? Yeah, I don't know, Chief. Oh well. Father asked me to go reclaim some faulty property, so Daddy Noodlestein was on the case. Upon my arrival, I was kind of put into a precarious situation, if you will. You know when you're at a party or at school and you have 2 friends who really hate each other and they both want to hang out with you? It was basically like that. Some Brotherhood soldiers were patrolling just near Nordhagen Beach, which coincidentally was just where the courser was. So much like parties and my school in real life, they started lighting each other up. I really started reconsidering the Brotherhood after watching them explode the courser, but alas, the most predatory path is often the most challenging one. So I'm making the wrong choice. Eventually the good guys left, leaving me and my boyfriend enough time for the fun to begin. The raid, not the other stuff, that happened off screen. It wasn't going very well. I was forced into hiding with almost no ammo to my name, with most of the fortress left to kill. So I went back to the Prairie to resupply, which was a huge mistake, since X688 decided to tag along and get railed by the strategic supremacy of the Brotherhood. Thankfully, the Brotherhood didn't suspect a thing, so I was able to barter with Proctor Tegan. I tried my best to ignore all the scraping metal, but it was getting loud. I wasn't there for long, only until I realized that Proctor Tegan only had 40 rounds, so I had to make the horrible trek to Diamond City. Oh wait, I can fly! So I stocked up on ammo. No, that's not enough. I then flew to Good Neighbor as well, and cleaned all of their vendors out. But there was something missing. One more vendor. So I flew to the Drumlin Diner to see if Wolfgang had any 10mm ammo. He didn't, and I figured fuck it. I probably had enough. So I laid siege on the raiders. I would go as far as to say this was harder than Fort Strong. These raiders both hit stupid hard and were worryingly durable. It didn't help that I missed like half my shots, but that's why I bought like 300 bullets. However, once you memorize the timing, it's a piece of cake. And next thing you know, I was in the inner sanctum, so I reclaimed the faulty property, and I pleased Father, but what else is new? Powerful political figures seemed to take a liking to me for some reason. And then it was time for the Battle of Bunker Hill. When I left the Institute for battle, I just got randomly ambushed by some raider who genuinely hit me with the Wombo combo, so I had to run it back. And I kid you not, I straight post-came when Idiot Savant triggered, giving me like 1400 XP. I eventually arrived at Bunker Hill and met up with the courser who told me to go in guns blazing. And based on how you've probably heard about Epstein in the history books, I had other plans. Somehow, through nothing short of a miracle, my stupid-ass plan somehow worked, and I was in the basement. I tried to help wherever I could, but it mostly boiled down to being a human shield, and finally, with nothing but 3 bullets left in the dream, I finally liberated the hostages of their pesky free will. And after getting rid of some evidence, I met back with Father, who was appointing me as his successor, which, hoo boy, is a big mistake. On the topic of big mistakes, mass fusion. I'm supposed to go there. However, here's the neat thing. Going there would make me enemies of the Brotherhood of Steel, which translates to, I'm gonna put it off until the last possible second. And besides, I still have a few things to do, starting with acquiring enough ammo to arm a small European nation, since I'm not making any trips to Diamond City anytime soon without fast travel. And second, remember when I went to Spectacle Island and pretty much got butt diddled as soon as I got there? Well, Jeffrey's coming home, baby. Count your days, Mirelurks. On the way, I witnessed a vertibird mating ritual, and then I stopped at the Adam Cat's garage to refuel, just so I'd have a save point, just in case things went wrong. And while I was doing a pre-battle goon ritual, I was ruthlessly attacked by some raider who snuck past multiple power-armored guards just to make me bleed. So thanks. Anyways, I got to Spectacle Island, and I pulled a switch that I really shouldn't have, because a Mirelurk Queen popped out of nowhere. But these crabs don't know what they're dealing with. And after the battle, I built a bed, and desperately tried to get my AP bar back. And after a crisp 36-hour nap, you wanna know what I woke up to? Billy! He was on the island the whole time! Why he stayed is a mystery, but fuck it, I guess he's staying true to the source material. However, I could see it in his eyes. Billy was not the same boy I abducted from that fridge. On another note, while he was on the island, Billy learned how to use a gun as he started gunning down one of the Mirelurks that I'm sure had their way with him multiple times over the past few months I was gone. I built a settler recruitment radio beacon so I can attract settlers to the island for reasons. I had big plans for this island, and nobody was gonna get in my way. And over the next few real-world hours, I scrapped everything I could find on the island, and stripped it of its natural ugliness, both for resources, and to make room for the temple and other pleasantries. Hours passed, and the island stayed relatively quiet, much like its real-world counterpart, ever since its old master abandoned it. I hadn't really decided what to do with it yet, but big plans nonetheless. Probably gonna get the video taken down kind of plans, but oh well. I have to stay true to the source material. When I wasn't renovating Little St. Sean, I would do nothing but go back and forth between merchants buying 10mm ammo, lying in wait, biding my time. I ended up with biblical amounts of ammunition, and people were actually coming to the island, which low-key kinda surprised me. Like, how did they even get here? But that wasn't all. I began constructing a temple of sorts, one fitting of the name Jeffrey. And, I'm just saying, for how shit Fallout 4's building mechanics are, I think I nailed it. Now for the festivities to begin. What were you expecting? Anyways, this concludes the beach arc and cements my place as a true Einstein wannabe. Now back to the main story. My next mission was mass fusion, which I was dreading, both because I'd make enemies with the Brotherhood, and because energy weapons hurt. So get ready for some major bitching. I relayed into mass fusion and almost bit the dust against the first enemy on the tower. To be fair, it was only because he was wearing power armor, and the rest of the forces on the roof were honestly a joke. Want to know what isn't a joke though? Guerrilla tactics. Those bastards cut the brake line on the elevator and sent Allie and I plummeting to her doom. So we fought our way through the small fries of the Brotherhood like hot butter, until Allie and I got into the basement. And that's where the real fun began. She insisted I used protection, and who was I to argue with a doctor, so I cleaned myself, and then went in. It only lasted like 12 seconds, but trust me, I'm used to that, and I ended up pulling out. A beryllium agitator of all things. Huh, weird. However, when a sentry bot pulled up on me, pulling out was the least of our problems, because it was a legendary sentry bot. So I kinda just abandoned the plan of letting Allie handle it and sorta just Swiss cheesed it, with the help of Jet of course. The two Assaultrons were much of the same. One huff of Brahmin shit and they were no more. They didn't even have the balls to explode. Pussies. After, it turns out, in a shocking twist of fate, I ended up somehow finding something actually good on the legendary sentry bot. And what's more, is that it has a children's toy on the front. It was meant to be. Knowing these clankers no longer took up space on this earth made me feel much better about the whole ordeal, because they were the main hurdle, so I was basically home free. This time, I didn't die, so I spoke with Father, who celebrated his father not dying by sending him away again. Fucking sociopath. On the way, I tried using a vertibird signal grenade so I could fly to my destination, but it didn't work for some reason, so I had to hoof it. Father wanted me to go to a house north of Grey Garden to convince some pussyo to join the Institute, and for me to kill his bodyguards. But I just wanted a save point, so I negotiated with the robots of Grey Garden, and they ended up letting me crash there for the night, but can you blame them? How could you say no to a face like this? Wallace's guards weren't much, aside from the one who threw a truck at me. With strength like that, he was holding himself back with a gun. I spoke to Wallace, and through using my vast power and connections, we came to an agreement. I had the IDF tranquilize him. I then shot him a few times just to see if he was faking being asleep, but I chalked it up to a maybe. Eventually, when I got back to the Institute, Father told me that he was actually alright. My next task was going to Diamond City to do some shit, yada yada radio, fuck Travis, the usual. On the way, I paid tribute to the indigenous land that we inhabit. And when I got there, I genuinely didn't know what I was doing, because I kinda just skimmed through Father's dialogue, so I low-key just pressed buttons until it worked. And Father was very pleased with this. He rewarded me by letting me activate the reactor. While I was yapping, I attended my first directorate meeting, and Father released his praise all over me and gave me the greatest honor a father could receive. Little Epstein Jr. told me to wipe out the Brotherhood of Steel and end democracy. This was gonna suck so hard. I need to go back to my roots. Stealth. So slowly, And I mean slowly, because it was like a good hour of just sneak attacking people. Oh yeah, and bear in mind, I started at over 600 shots, so pay attention to my ammo on the right side of the screen. Anyways, the plan started with me taking pot shots at the Brotherhood, just unloading a holy amount of sneak attack criticals, until I maybe kill one after a few attempts, and then I would go into hiding until they forgot I existed. You'd think after like 30 or 40 attempts they'd catch on, but that's the beauty of Fallout 4's AI. So the plan went off without a hitch. That is, until I found a bed at Boston Airport. Then it was going great. I could play a bit more aggressive. It all accumulated in the dream run. I eventually just went in guns blazing, killing Brotherhood soldiers left and right, and doing enough jet to surely end up with permanent brain damage after this battle. Things really started to take off when I missed my shot, and it hit one of the generators I was supposed to take out, spawning a shitload of synths. Not gonna lie, it's been so long, I kinda forgot that's why I was here. Anyways, I blew up the second generator and damn near blew my leg off on the third one. With this, synths were now able to storm the Brotherhood completely, meaning I wouldn't have to get my pretty princess hands quite as dirty. And then, we started installing the virus containing zettabytes of CP onto Liberty Prime. This is where the real game begins. It was fucking carnage out there. I'm surprised my GPU didn't turn into silly putty, that's how much was going on. The Brotherhood was throwing all they had at me, but in the end, it was pointless. The Steen always wins. Anyways, you can beat Fallout 4 as Jeffery Epstein. Not easily, but it's possible, so if you're feeling brave, I encourage you to put on the quarter zip, pick up your Glock, and take a flight to the island. As always, huge thank you for making it this far into the video. I hope you enjoyed it, as I had a blast working on it. I think I've learned a lot about myself from this challenge. I think Epstein rubbed off on me. Just kidding. But I did learn a lot about him and what he did. Epstein is no laughing matter, so keep that in mind and try to be respectful in the comments. And I am aware, this was a longer one, but not gonna lie, I don't know how I could have shortened this one much more. I already cut a lot of corners and it's still this long, so I don't know. Maybe let me know in the comments what you think about the longer videos. I'm open to suggestions. Anyways, that's about all for today, Noodle Gang. And as always, God bless the Enclave. God bless America. NoodleGod signing off.